Yo, 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 what's going on, guys? Macro Mondays. Bullish momentum continues, guys. It's still looking bullish for sure. Bitcoin just had a perfect retest of the previous resistance. You can see big resistance level over here. Price rejected off here, price rejected off here. We finally broke through, and it looks like we have just given it that perfect, breakout, retest, and then off we go. So definitely bullish in my opinion. We're still looking for the upward target of this line, probably sooner than later, in my opinion. This coming up to that 120K region, and that can happen sooner than later, in my opinion. So the momentum is continuing. Looks like the RSI is, having a little opportunity to break out here. Let me just neaten this up for you guys over there. Definitely still space for the RSI to move up as well. So, momentum to the upside for sure. We're gonna have a look at the weekly time frame as well, and the weekly time frame suggests that there's definitely still more to go for this move. So what you can see here is on the MACD, looking very strong here. We haven't had a print yet of a white tile, which means that this is most likely going to continue to the upside. And on the weekly time frame, it definitely does look bullish. The macro market structure continues to be bullish, creating higher highs and higher lows throughout. And we are expecting another higher high. We have actually broken, so this is a higher high technically, but we do want to see a much bigger move to the upside. RSI, still lots of room to go. I am personally going to be cautious when we come into this horizontal, this downsloping resistance on the RSI over here. I will be cautious if we get a white tile print with the RSI running up into this downsloping resistance. I will be cautious. But for now, there's, again, guys, I've said this a few times, there's nothing bearish about the highest weekly close in history, okay? It happened the previous week, it happened again this week, and it is looking good. So the previous weekly candle is, quite a big range. So you can see there's the top side of the range of the candle over here. That is the top side. And then you have the bottom side over here. Okay. So I am expecting a range. We might see those levels sweep. So definitely mark these levels off on your chart. That being, of course, the all-time high at about 112K, and that weekly low coming in at about 102K. So there's a $10,000 range over here. So, do you expect a potential range to form in this zone over here? But nothing to be worried about if you're still in your Bitcoin long or Bitcoin spot position. No time to close the trade at all. There's no sign of a reversal at all over here. And as I said, watch out when the RSI and the weekly time frame comes into this downsloping resistance, as well as the first white tile print of the MACD, which hasn't happened yet, guys. So definitely no concerns over there. So the market structure continues. You can see we had a resistance and a breakout, resistance and a breakout, and we can make this yellow as well. And that is a resistance and a breakout. So we are expecting a move. And in my opinion, this red box is a key level. And I think, this upsloping resistance over here is also a target. And depending on when we hit that target, it is only rising as we go through time. So definitely check this out, guys. Solana, speak about Solana quickly, because Solana has experienced quite a bit of resistance at the levels that we spoke about. We've been targeting this region over here for a while now. It looks like we are getting a little bit of distribution in the zone over here. That zone being the 180 to 190 region. This region over here is big resistance, and I'm expecting big sell orders over there. But if we break through this, I think it will be moving fast to the upside. So definitely, if you are in big Solana leverage longs, this is a place where you would be taking some chips off the table. Ethereum as well. I'm going to go into the weekly time frame as well for those two charts for Solana and Ethereum after this, because they are looking interesting. Ethereum finding resistance at that 50% level at 2,750 over here. But it is starting to form a base of support above the 200-day EMA. which is a positive sign. I'm still got my long limit orders for this year. I obviously took my profits off the table from the long from about 1800. Took most of the chips off the table between the 200-day EMA and the 50% level. That was a great trade, and I do see that this will be a good trade if we do come down to that level over there. So I'm looking for anything underneath that box over there. So the 50-day EMA, in my opinion, will be a great place for a bounce. So definitely mark this level off on the charts. And if we look at Ethereum on the weekly time frame, you can see that we are facing resistance over here. That is the 50 weekly moving average. So I think as soon as we get above that, we will see an explosive move. So over here we got above it, huge move to the upside. Over here we got above it, started a massive trend to the upside. And we can go back in history, and it normally is a good sign when we are above the 50-week EMA for Ethereum. Solana, on the other hand, has reclaimed the 50-week EMA over there. So building a bit of a base in the zone over here, which is a positive sign. But all we want to see for Solana is a reclaim of the 50% level, form some support here, then all-time highs will be the next target. And that is for Solana, guys. That is for Solana. So definitely have a look at all of these charts on the weekly time frame. Mark off the 50-week EMA, the 50% levels, and I like the MACD on the weekly time frame. I think it's very useful. So definitely mark those off all on your chart, guys. Let's have a look at USDT dominance, because this only came a little bit into our fair value gap before getting rejected. We did then break down of this. There was an upsloping support, which we lost. Tested it as resistance over here. So you can see resistance. And it looks like we are potentially making this breakdown move over here. Guys, nothing really bullish about this at all. Lower lows. So nothing bullish about this chart, which means nothing bearish for crypto, guys, because it is the opposite, of course. But, you know, we could still come into this fair value gap over here. So let's wait and see what happens over there. If we go to USDC dominance, similar picture. This did not come into the fair value gap. I think this shows that, you know, Bitcoin and blue chips are stronger than altcoins at the moment. And this is basically continuing its bearish market structure underneath the 200-day EMA, underneath the 50% level. Okay, so I'm expecting a move to the downside. Could we get a little spike up to fill the fair value gap before going down? Of course we can, guys. Of course we can. But just know that the bias is to the downside for this, which means the bias for crypto is to the upside, guys. Definitely very important to understand that, okay? The chart that I'm looking at the moment is actually total 3, guys. Total 3 is at resistance over here at the 50% level. You can see we are getting rejected from the zone over here, rejected over there, rejected over there. And I think if total 3 can just get above this 50% level and close some weekly candles above that level, I think it'll be looking really, really good for the altcoin market. And if we go to the weekly time frame over here real quick, you'll see that we haven't actually closed a weekly candle above that level. So very, very, very important. You can see that there is some bearish absorption over here. You can see some of the bears are maybe offloading their positions into this 50% level for altcoins. Okay, so definitely watch this off on your charts. But for now, you know, we are still in a uptrend, guys. You can see on the weekly time frame, of course, you know, we've been in uptrend for a while, on a macro uptrend, of course. So higher highs throughout. This is potentially creating a massive cup and handle. But let's wait and see, guys. The first step is going to be for total 3 to get above $910 billion, close a weekly candle above there, and it is definitely game on for the altcoin sector, guys. But no confirmations until we have reclaimed that zone, guys. And going back to total, still waiting for a potential pullback. We only came a little bit into the buy box over here, only managed to get into one big long, had many more that I wanted to get into, but you know, nothing is confirmed. Just note, guys, there is a little bit of bearish divergence here. Of course, our price moving up like that, creating higher highs, whilst the RSI creating lower highs over there. Nothing to panic about. There's no confirmation of the breakdown yet. What you can do is draw this trend line over here. And this is the momentum line that you want to, hold. Okay, so if we do break this upsloping support trend line, then you can expect that we could see lower levels, of course. Some lower targets would be the 50% level from wherever the high comes into, that being at that $2.9 trillion region. So I think this buy box is really, 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 really good. So definitely mark this off on your charts, guys. This $3 trillion mark, I think, is huge. Remember, guys, we're very, very bullish above $3 trillion for the crypto market. So if we can hold that level, it is looking good. So if we do get a move into this buy box, I think, leverage longs are very much on the table. Also, guys, definitely mark this resistance off, this downsloping resistance over there, obviously connecting the highs. So mark, if we get above this, do you expect the move to continue? And remember, guys, we are targeting that $5 trillion region. This is the final zone for the crypto cycle, in my opinion. Seeing $5 trillion would be amazing. That's the final target for Q4 or Q1 of next year, guys. So, if we do come into the buy box, if we do get a little pullback into the $3 trillion region, this would be a good zone to load up on your favorite altcoins. Looking at, let's have a look at others, because, others is looking for a move up to that 50% level. Remember that the 50% level does act as a magnet in the market. So, we are above the important EMAs, and we are testing those important EMAs as support over there. So, this is looking decent for a potential move up for the altcoin sector. As soon as we get that golden cross, it'll be looking good. So I think there's a long here for altcoins, something like this. If your altcoin looks similar to this chart, a move like this is definitely on the cards. If we come down to this EMAs again, stop below there. This will be looking like a good trade. We can move it to 3-1 if we want to be in on that entry. So I think this is looking good. I think the 50% retest is very often on the cards. We saw it with the majority of the other cryptos that we've been watching. So as soon as this gets the golden cross, you see golden cross, off you go. This could get a golden cross and off you go. And then, this hasn't come close to levels that it's seen. This was in 2021. It was a lot higher than this. So, this could easily, make a move to the top. And you can see that we are in technical bullish market structure, creating higher highs, higher lows, obviously very choppy. But let's see where this next high takes us. Is it going to be a higher high? Is it going to be a lower high looking like a little bit of a head and shoulders? Who knows? Let's wait and see. And only time will tell, guys. Only time will tell. So for now, it is bullish above the EMAs. And I think long altcoins, is a good risk to reward trade at the moment. Okay. What do you think of Chill Guy? Let's have a look at Chill Guy quickly. A couple other altcoin requests if you guys are up for it. I think this has pumped quite a bit. Okay, so, forming some kind of cup over here, this kind of rounding bottom can be quite bullish. Of course, a lot of people were buying the top here on Chill Guy. So, you could easily see a move down to the 50-day EMA over there, coming in at 0.064. Then that could be a buy zone. Personally, staying away from meme coins, more of a blue chip trader, of course. Let's have a look at some other meme coins. What are you guys are suggesting meme coins? So let's have a look at WIF, because WIF is actually taking some of the limelight, in my opinion. It is looking good. This was the trade I was looking at, was for a push down to the zone over here. Still think it's possible if the crypto market does sell off. I think this would be a great zone for a long, taking that move up to the top there. But let's wait and see, guys. I think if it can hit the 50-day EMA, that would be a good trade. Personally, wouldn't be buying now. You can see it's struggling to stay above the 200-day EMA there, of course. Let's look at Doge. I don't even have Doge here. Yeah, not looking too bad. I think Doge is looking a lot better than the majority of the others. So holding up well. above the 200-day EMA over here. And I think this would be your buy zone, guys. Good buy zone over here, of course. Holding above the important EMAs. And you can take a long from this zone over here. You know, your stop would just go below the 50-day EMA because you don't really want to lose the 50-day EMA. And, you know, targeting the 50% level. And that 50% level would be from that all-time high, which is anchored over there, to the zone over here, 31 cents over there. So this would be your trade. If you are looking for a Doge trade, it could look something like that. You can even long this current level. If you long the current level, it does give you a 3-to-1. But I think, you know, if the market does see a pullback, you can grab all this liquidity, giving us a much better entry here. So this is a potential trade for Dogecoin, 6-to-1 risk to reward. I'm going to mark this level off on my charts. 21 cents, I think, is a buy zone. Grab the liquidity over there. Let's see, guys. Let's see. I think this is a potential trade. Of course, you don't want to lose the 50-day EMA. Often when it is resistance, we do get one more bounce off it. WLB. Okay, forming some bullish market structure. Looks like it is flipping this previous resistance into support. So this is a potential long zone. And if you are a believer in this, you know, you could take a long from current prices. Stop would just go below that low over there because we have started the bullish market structure. And then the question is, you know, where would the target be? Where would be targeting? So, you know, you could take the last high to the previous low over there, and we can be targeting that 2.38 over there, giving us a risk reward of 3.5-to-1. So not too bad. You know, it might take a while. But this is a typical trade that you can be taking. Obviously, stop below this low because we have formed bullish market structure. Bullish market structure being higher highs and higher lows. And what you don't want to do is invalidate that. If you invalidate that, then we're not looking for this long anymore. So this is a potential trade. 3.85-to-1 risk reward. Looks like a high probability trade. I might be taking this trade actually, guys. Not too bad. So look at Jupiter quick. I know it is somewhere. It's always faster to type it though. Having a bit of a pump today. Yeah, also starting to form that bullish market structure, of course. Very deep pullback though. Yeah, wouldn't be longing this at the moment. I think if we can close candles above this level, you can see a squeeze up, of course. But yeah, not very bullish on Jupiter. This thing got absolutely smashed. Okay, let's go into the macros quickly. Let's go into the NASDAQ having a nice push up today. Of course, after the bearish news on Friday, it got bought up a bit. And I think now Trump has extended that tariff news. So, you know, getting a bit of relief there today. If you look at the dollar, the DXY, the perfect breakdown. You know, we've been watching this for a while. Broke down to the range low. There's this upsloping support over here. Broke down, tested that as support. It was lined up with the 50-day EMA, and it's selling off. Remember that the dollar weakening means that everything that's priced against the dollar should strengthen. So, you know, if crypto, you know, any altcoin against USDT, if the dollar is weakening, your altcoin should increase theoretically. S&P 500, not looking too bad. Massive V-shaped recovery over here. Of course, the V-shaped recovery was expected. Terrible news like that, you often do get a V-shaped recovery. So we have had the golden cross again. You know, we had the death cross, but we reclaimed the EMA is giving us the golden cross, and we are expecting this to move up. If we do get more of a sell-off, this 5,500 region over here, massive region, I think we will get a bounce off there and continue to all-time high levels. You know, we have been expecting this to just continue onwards and upwards like it normally does. There's no point betting against the S&P 500 going up. I think it's a silly move. It goes up over time. I think it's, you know, I think 1 in 10 years the stock market is red, so it's most likely going to be green. So just remember that. NASDAQ as well, huge level over here. It has reclaimed it, tested as support. So I'm expecting the NASDAQ to continue its move up. If it does get a pullback down to that 19,400, 50% level, that is still acceptable. But for now, it is looking pretty bullish for stocks. I think they've had a good bounce. I think, the people who bought stocks did quite well. Of course, it's a bank holiday in the US, so these aren't going to be open, but you can see that the futures are doing well. But for now, if we have a look at the events, FOMC minutes on Wednesday, so expect some volatility. I think we're going to go sideways today and tomorrow. I'm not expecting any movements in the market, so probably not too much point staring at the charts. But FOMC meeting minutes on Wednesday, pretty big one. Core PCE on Friday, and following week NFP, guys. So that's the kind of the news events. If you look at high block capital on the higher term time frame is showing that there is a lot of liquidity at that 112, 113K region. That's obviously the all-time highs. So that is my bias, guys. I do have an upward bias for the markets at the moment. Yeah, that's basically my kind of thoughts at the moment. I'm expecting just a continuation to the upside for Bitcoin. And I would rather say sideways or up. And the point of invalidation would be, if we do lose the 50% level of this recent move up over there, if we do lose this 93K zone over here, obviously huge level as well. If we do lose this 90, 91, 92K level, then you can say that potentially the top is in, or we're just going to go sideways in this range. So yeah, bullish bias in my opinion. Let's wait and see what happens. Guys, thanks so much for joining the stream, and we'll check you later this week. Cheers for now.